No worries. The last time you have to listen to me, so just give me the. Just be patient for another 30 minutes, and then you can do whatever you want. So, inshallah, tonight, despite that, most likely Friday is Eid, like most likely. Are you okay? Good. Most likely Friday is Eid. We're still going to have, inshallah, tonight after Isha, a short qiyam and witr. If by some divine intervention Saturday is Eid and Friday is not, then we'll have a normal tarawih and witr, so there's no difference. Again, inshallah, for Eid Friday, I'll be at the convention center, the first salah. I'm seeing Sheikh Jamal, you'll be giving the khutbah. And we will have a khutbah Jum'ah, inshallah, here at 2:30. Sheikh Jamal, bizallah khair, yani, has accepted to do it. So if you don't take the opinion of Eid making up for Jum'ah, then you're welcome to to come and attend Jum'ah as well, inshallah. So the first khutbah, the first Eid takbirat is 8:15, and the khutbah and the salah is 8:45. So 8:15, 45. The first one. The second one is 10:15 and 10:45. Last thing before I can start is please take food on your way out. Just pick up anything that's on the counter and take it. It doesn't matter. Just anything you want, especially if you're young and single. Take it home and have your futur today on our expense, inshallah ta'ala. Please don't leave the food here. And if you brought food and it wasn't used, take it with you. Jazakumullah khair. We just don't have the facilities to put this away, and Khalid and I have to fight about who's going to take it home. And we're both tired, so just take it with you, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Over the entirety of the month, during the weekdays of this month, we had the pleasure and the honor and the privilege to talk about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I went through a lot of attributes. I spoke of his patience. I spoke of his generosity, of his bravery, of his asceticism, of his grit, of his perseverance, of his love, of his forgiveness, of his kindness, of his flexibility, of his loyalty. I talked about how he spoke, how he walked, how he moved, how he dressed, how he ate. I talked about how he treated his family, how he treated his companions, how he treated women, how he treated children, how he treated creations of God subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how he treated us, which is what I talked about yesterday. And today, I'm going to flip it a little bit as the last session of this series, and I hope inshallah you found it somewhat beneficial, and inshallah there was some degree of increase of love for him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so if that's even possible, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is our fellowship of the Prophet alaihi salatu wasalam. Everything that happens, there has to be a fruit. Everything that we do, there has to be some benefit that occurs at the end. After 30 or 29 days of Ramadan, of you committing yourself, you're coming to Fajr as much as possible, you're praying Taraweeh, you're really pushing yourself, you're reading more Quran, you're listening to more lessons, there has to be a fruit of all of that. There has to be at the end a thamara, something that changes, something that improves, something that is going to be built upon. That's really important. If there's no fruit, if there's no change, if there's no result of khair after it all, then this effort that was put in is almost lost. It's almost like it's energy that was pumped and channeled, and then it just kind of dispersed into nothing, and it doesn't do anything. It's very important that when you perform an act of worship like this, or you go through something like this, that you think, what is the thamara? What is the point? What is the benefit at the end? What am I going to get out of this? How is this going to change me or improve me? Aside from the ajr that you hope to get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there has to be something that you see in your character, in your habits, in your routine. There has to be something that we're working towards. And I think I'm going to give you a couple of points. I'll give you maybe 6 points to think about. Number one, we must learn to follow him sallallahu alayhi wasallam truthfully, honestly. We must hold ourselves to the standard that he held himself to alayhi salatu wasalam. When you hear the stories of how he behaved and how patient and perseverant and kind he was alayhi salatu wasalam, we have to hold ourselves to that standard. Or else what's the point of listening to these stories? If we listen to we hear about him alayhi salatu wasalam, we listen to him speak, we watch him behave and act, and then we don't hold ourselves to that. See, the best one amongst us right now is the one who follows the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam the most. The person who's adhering the most to his sunnah alayhi salatu wasalam is the best one amongst us. I gave a series last year and before where I talked about the intellectual fellowship of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, where I want you to learn to think the way he thought. Because not only should we behave the way he behaved and walk the way he walked and speak the way he spoke and and treat people the way he treated them, but we also have to learn to think the way he thought, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this is the point of all of this, that we take ourselves through Ramadan one step closer to following him properly, alayhi salatu wasalam. That is the goal, and that is there is no purpose that is more important than that, than measuring yourself and saying, I'm closer to being like him, alayhi salatu wasalam. I'm not there, I'm not even remotely close, but I'm one step closer, for whatever that's worth. And that has to be something that we put ahead of ourselves and we focus on. When you look at the Sahaba with the Prophet ﷺ, they didn't just pray. They didn't just perform these acts of worship. They didn't just do that and then, okay, they're good to move on. No, this was to them the fuel that they were going to use to allow them to build, to allow them to perform the activism that Islam tells us to perform, or told them to perform. They took these nights and they took these days and they took these acts of worship, their siyam and their qiyam and their qira'at Quran and all the other good acts of worship and deeds that we do. They used it to fuel themselves so they could continue to build the ummah and they could contribute in a meaningful way to the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ and to the vision that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put on this earth for us. They used it for that. Go back to the Quran. Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qum al-layla illa qalila. Pray all night. Why? Just read a few verses down. He tells them, Inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila. We're going to give you a very heavy message to carry. It's going to be a heavy word. Qawlan thaqila, these are heavy words you're going to carry. You need the fuel. You need the spiritual strength. You need to be able to actually adhere to it and persevere with it. So pray a lot. So he did, alayhi salatu wasalam, and he carried the message. He carried it no matter how difficult it was. He continued to do his part and to fulfill his purpose. And as Muslims, this is what Ramadan's for. Ramadan is to put you on the track, put you on the road. Here, start, get ready, move. It's not, things don't end with Ramadan. Things begin with Ramadan. Ramadan is designed to help you, give you to jump start you, to put you on the track to move forward. If it's treated in any other way, we don't know what we're doing with it. If we don't understand that, there's a problem, because this is what Ramadan is it's very clear what it was designed for. It was designed so that we, after losing our way, we're brought back. We're centralized, we're focused. He puts us, subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a 30-day boot camp. You are trained, you are strengthened, you are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your status elevates, your heart opens, things become much more clear to you, so that you can, after Ramadan, continue to do the job. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. Indeed, there in the Prophet is a perfect role model, an excellent role model for those who want Allah and want the hereafter and continue to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during their lives. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله واتقوا الله. O those who believe, do not put anything ahead of Allah and His Prophet. Nothing's ahead of them. Nothing's more important. There is nothing in the priority list that comes ahead of Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're number one. That's the first thing. That's all that matters. Everything else is a very far down drop of number 2 and 3 and 4. Don't put anything ahead of them, ever. وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. What He brought you, alayhi sallam, take it, embrace it, live it. And what He discouraged you from doing and told you not to do, then stay away from it. This is what we were taught to do with Him, alayhi salatu wasalam. This is what the Quran tells us. You follow. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Say, O Muhammad, if you love Allah, then follow me, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Follow my, and then He will love you back, and He will forgive your sins, and things will work out. You have to follow Him, alayhi salatu wasalam. We must keep in our eyesight the status of the ummah. See, there has to be, we can never forget that piece. What we're doing here, like you go through Ramadan and mashallah, people show up and there's a lot of commitment and there's a lot of eagerness and will and desire to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's actually something very uplifting, alhamdulillah. It's beautiful. This is our second Ramadan here, and I'm still quite humbled by people's willingness to show up and to stick to things and to actually help and the volunteering. But there has to be ahead of us a goal. The goal is the status of this ummah, the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not just an ummah. No, it's his ummah, alayhi salatu wasalam. If you listen to his stories and if you see his character and you love him, alayhi salatu wasalam, then remember that what he wants you to do is to contribute to the wellness and the well-being of his ummah. That has to be the goal. And this ummah is huge. enormous. It exists all over the planet, in different age groups, in different ethnicities, in different races, in different socioeconomic statuses, and different struggles. And we have to contribute to that. That has to be our goal. There has to be a vision of that. There's no such thing as just, and you go to the masjid and you go home and go to sleep and you go to the masjid and then you go to work and that's all. Your life is just simple. No. Obviously, you're going to go to work and you make a living, and obviously go to the masjid, but there has to be a higher goal. There has to be a long-term vision that this ummah has to rise again. This ummah has to wake up again. This ummah has to go back to what it once was. It has to, because that's the message. That's what we're here for. And if we're not able to identify that the ummah is not where it needs to be, that they're far away from what would make him happy, alayhi salatu wasalam, what would satisfy him, then that has to be our goal. We have to identify that we have to change that reality. And that reality is changed through people, through commitment and grit and perseverance, through practicing what he taught, alayhi salatu wasalam, and taking that to heart, and then taking it to the world around you, and finding a way to contribute, and finding a deficit or a gap or a problem, and to fix it and help the ummah stand on its feet again. Because the khair in this world will come from this ummah. He says that, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kuntum khayra ummatin. It's not an issue of beating. No. This is not a struggle with some other group. This is the fact that if this hadi, these teaching, this way is khair for everyone, those who believe in it and those who don't believe in it. So bringing it back to the forefront of this world is something that we have to carry and we have to take seriously, because it's going to serve everyone. The human being doesn't always know what's best for them. Just like children. To some degree, we never really change from the 3-year-old inside of us. They don't know what's best for them. They just want to eat cookies and candy all day. You let them do that. That's what they want. They let them do that. They get sick. They grow up ill. They don't want to go to school. No one wants to go to school. I hated every moment of school, from grade 1 to grade 12 and beyond. Didn't like a moment of it. If I was given the choice, I would never go to school. Not once. Not even a day. But if my dad didn't allow me to do that out of love, or I would have lost my life. My life would have been done. I didn't know what was best for me. The human being, to a certain degree, on a higher level, between the human being, the intellectually competent human being, and God, there are things that the human doesn't know what's best for them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants guidance. So we take that guidance, and when we practice it, it serves us and it serves all those around us. That has to be the goal. We cannot lose that. I talk to Muslims and I don't find within them, the desire and the love for Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wanting to work for it, I know this is short-lived. This spark of religion is short-lived unless I can find some way to put it in. And it's very difficult sometimes to find a way to get them to care about something that's beyond maybe just their personal well-being. There's a bigger picture that we have to become a part of. We have to be able to argue our way through the day of judgment. In the Quran, وَإِذْ قَالَتْ أُمَّةٌ مِّنْهُمْ, this is a very important verse in Surah Al-A'raf. وَإِذْ قَالَتْ أُمَّةٌ مِّنْهُمْ لِمَ تَعِظُونَ قَوْمًا اللَّهُ مُهْلِكُهُمْ أَوْ مُعَذِّبُهُمْ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا. Why are you wasting time talking to people who are obviously so much against what you're saying? They're going to be punished. They're going to be punished in this dunya by God and in the hereafter. You're wasting your time. Their answer in the Quran was قَالُوا مَعْذِرَةً إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ. مَعْذِرَةً إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ. I need to be able to bring my case. I did my best. I have to have a way to argue my way. I tried. Whether the outcome changes or not, I still have to try. I have to be able to go to God and say, I gave it my best. I gave my best shot. They didn't want to listen. مَعْذِرَةً إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ. You have to be able to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, I did my best. Yes, the ummah didn't really change throughout my life, but I tried my best. I thought about it all the time, and I pushed as far as I could. وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ in the ayah. And maybe, what do you know? Why are we judgmental? Why are people, maybe they accept, maybe you don't know. When I opened this place, or we started this place, I had no real plan for a convert care. It wasn't something I was thinking about. I had all these other stuff I wanted to do. We've accepted Islam of 50 people here in the last year. Well, like the first couple of months, we had nothing. I just accepted Islam and they would leave because we had nothing. We had nothing. In Ramadan, 4 people. Just in Ramadan alone. There is khair in this world, and there's khair in this ummah. And who do you think are bringing these people? Their friends. What do you think their age groups are? Grade 10, and 11, and 12, and university students. People are performing da'wah, and people are coming into Islam. وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. We have no way to say who's going to accept and who's not going to accept. We just do our job. You just have to do what you have to make sure you can, as Shu'aib alayhi salam would say, I love this is my favorite. قال إن أريد إلا الإصلاح ما استطعت. All I want to do is to try and reform as much as to the best of my ability. To bring reform to the best of my ability. Whatever my capacity is, that's what I'm going to peak at. I'll peak at that. Whatever my limitations are, to the extent of my limits, I want to bring reform to help change things, to make them better again. That is our message. That is how we're supposed to be. I think I'm comfortable sharing this. We'll see. Tomorrow marks, for me, the 10th year anniversary of the day I left Syria. Tomorrow, the 21st of April. After a certain amount of time that I spent in an intelligence facility, I left. I knew that I couldn't stay there anymore. If I stayed, I would either get killed or have other people killed, so I decided to leave. Now, I come from a mixed marriage. Now, I lived in Canada, and I was the Arab boy. I lived in Saudi, I was a Syrian boy. I lived in Syria, I was a Canadian boy. I never fit in anywhere. I was never accepted fully. Like I had to work really hard. But once I went back to Syria in the mid-1999, this is the land of my forefathers. This is where my grandfather was born, and my great-grandfather was born. So I decided this is my home. I'm going to make it my home whether they like it or not. And it was very hard because people would ask you the question, are you an idiot? What are you doing here? Don't you have a Canadian passport? Get out. This was the thing that we were told on a daily basis. So I went to one of my shuyukh and I asked him, what do I do? He said, the only way to belong is to serve. You want to belong, you serve. You serve them and then you belong. People won't accept you for no reason. You have to give them a reason. So I spent 15 years there working with younger people in masajid and doing da'wah and doing Quran and doing taraweeh. A lot of what I do here is just basically a duplication of what I did there. It's not that, whatever I did there. And I got accepted. And I became a part of their community. And I loved the earth, and I loved the place, and I loved the community, and I loved the country. And I loved being a part of something. And when I was ripped out of it and I had to leave, it really, till this day, I haven't fully dealt with it. There's a part of me that still hasn't dealt with it. It's just locked up, and I keep it quiet, and I put it aside. I didn't think for a moment, if you talked to me in 2008 or 9, that if you told me in 2020 or 23, you would be in this fake city called London, Ontario, not the real one, the actual, the second that you didn't even know existed. You're going to be living there, and you're going to be away from your country for 10 years straight. You're not going to see anybody that you grew up with teaching, or your students, or your friends, or your family. I wouldn't have believed it. But now it's been 10 years. 10 full years. There has to be a thamara of anything that you do in life. You have to look for, there has to be a result. There has to be something. You cannot afford to go through life and not see some form of benefit of the time that you spent there. This to me was the biggest test of my life, because I left a place that had I stayed there, maybe it would be easier for me to see. But then I had to come here and I had to figure out, okay, how do I, because I can't, the measuring progress now is difficult, because now you're plucked out of your environment and you're put in a place where you don't know anyone. And you don't have a way to make a living. You don't have a degree, and you don't know, it's just the language. Even for me, I spoke English, but the terminology of Islam is a whole different thing. Nomenclature is a very big deal. It took you a while for me to figure out what the words are going to translate into. But it forced me to think about certain things. That in 10 years, if I haven't done anything, that's a 10-year waste of time. Because it doesn't matter that I'm not where I need to be, or where I want to be, or where I hope to be, or the land that I love. But this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put me, so this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to work. This is where I have to focus, where I have to put my effort. You can't afford in life to say, these are not the optimal circumstances. This is not my best, I'm not in my best time right now, or best mood, or in best situation. It doesn't matter where are you? Where did He put you? Just make sure that you're working, trying your best to do something, to push things forward at least. And even if it's baby steps, even if it's something really simple. Even if you're not revolutionizing something, but are you doing, is there some benefit of our existence? Is someone being served by you being alive? Is someone benefiting from you being around? That has to be the question you ask yourself. And I had to ask myself that question really difficultly when I came here 10 years ago. How am I going to measure it now? In Syria, it was easy. I knew exactly what I was doing. I had my masjid, I knew what I was doing. It was clear. Like, it was a very clear trajectory. But that's life. It throws you a curveball, and then you don't know. But if you're honest about this, you have to go back and say, okay, this is not optimal, but let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do with this time. And that's all life is. Till this day, when I think about 10 years, I find it really difficult to wrap my head around it. Like, I really do. I find it very hard to believe that 10 years right now I was in the card leap. It's hard. It's hard to accept that 10 years, a full decade of my life. I feel like I just walked off the plane. In my mind, I'm just waiting for it to cool down so I can, subhanAllah. It's life. So think about it. What age are you? 10 years are going to run by so fast, so fast, that you're not going to be happy with it. Like, you're not going to be okay even. You're not going to want to talk. Why do you think people have midlife crisis? A midlife crisis comes from the fact that you don't accept that time is flying by that quickly. But it becomes much easier to accept when you have something that you're trying to achieve. That's the beauty of having a bigger goal, something that's beyond just your degree and your marriage and your house and making a living. It's something bigger than that, something that transcends your existence. It's something that's much more profound and deep that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put into motion that you're being a part of. And if you can do that, then it doesn't matter how old you are, how long you spend away from something or in something, because you can see yourself pushing things forward or allowing progress to actually occur. And what I think we should focus on in this community are 5 categories. I think these are the 5 things we should be looking at. Wallahu a'lam. This is my observation of the last 10 years. I think the first category has to be educational. We have to be focusing more on education, Islamic education and beyond. Now, not just education in terms of information, but skill sets and training. And not just that, but also making sure that people not just know information, but know the right information at the right time during their lives. And that they have some way to seek knowledge moving forward. That knowledge doesn't stop at a certain age. Knowledge is a continuous act of seeking all your life. It's just, you're a lifelong learner. The moment you accept Islam, you're a lifelong learner. We have to invest more in education. Our youth want to be Muslims. They want to know Islam, but they don't have the tools because they're not getting the right enough exposure. And this is something we all have to find ways to invest in, to make sure that there are the proper set up facilities for people to learn, and for them to learn things that will help them in their life as they move forward, as they go through high school and university, and they have the narratives that allow them to make sense of the universe and something they can be proud of and defend. Number 2, I think we should focus a lot on outreach, da'wah. And this is not just da'wah to non-Muslims, and it's not just da'wah for Muslims. It's for both, and even maybe more. Da'wah is important. When I sit here and I speak to you, I'm preaching to the choir. You're already agreeing with most of what I'm saying. But what about the majority of Muslims that don't come to these places, that don't feel welcome here, or don't know their way to a masjid, who haven't been there for a long time, or they weren't raised that way, or they just feel too lost to ever come here? What about them? Who's going to reach out to them? Who's going to actually take it on? We need to invest in this, again, through people. Educational efforts that we do has to have a piece of that where we reach out to Muslims who require, in the gray area. There are people who don't want to come, that's fine. But there are people in the gray area where they'll come. They just need a little bit of help, a little bit of a nudge, some encouragement. Many of you come in Ramadan. Many people here came. This is the first time they've been in this masjid or in a masjid for a long time. And they found this is barakah, this is khair. But we have to do way better than that. Outreach for non-Muslims. What purpose do we serve here for the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ as Muslims if we're not going to actually perform da'wah? If we're not going to take Islam to non-Muslims, what's the point of living here? Just the food? Not that good. I can take you to any Arabic country, way better food, honestly. The worst thing here is the food. What's the point then? We have to know what we're here for. We're here to do da'wah on a personal level, on a communal level. Outreach. Number 3, mentorship. And it's different than education. It's not the same thing. I'm specifically making these 2 points because it's not the same thing. Education is information. Information has to be the proper information at the proper time, packaged properly, and given to someone so they can understand it. Mentorship is different. Mentorship is making sure that people build their identity. They have role models. They have someone to help them as they go through their struggles. They have someone to stand by them as they transition from childhood to adolescence to manhood or womanhood. They need people on the way there. You can't do this alone. You know that because you're here just by the grace of God. Most people are like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How I didn't end up doing 1, 2, 3, I don't know. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is not the right way to do this. I'm not saying that Allah will not continue to do that. Of course He will subhanahu wa ta'ala, but He'll do that so that you can make sure that the person comes after you doesn't have to, roll the dice on their lives and their long-term commitment. Mentorship is to make sure that there's a strong identity, a feeling of belonging. You feel proud that you're Muslim, not in a bad way. But have some izzah, have some integrity, that this deen is the most precious thing that exists in the world, and you were given this. You're a follower of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That you should walk the earth feeling very confident in who you are. And that mentorship piece is missing because people get a bit older and they're middle-aged professionals. They don't care anymore. Aside from their children, they don't care. That doesn't work. You're a 4th year university. You don't care. You have to care. You made it to 4th year, you're about to graduate, you're about to go into medical school or to law or start working. Come back. There are primary students and high school students who require a little bit of attention, just a little bit of attention, just a little bit of love, just a little, wallahi, just a little bit of love. Someone to listen to them say salams and see how they're doing and take them out for a coffee every once in a while. A little bit of mentorship. I'm only here because a lot of people put a lot of time and effort to make sure that they mentored me. I wouldn't be sitting here, honestly. You know what it was like to be a half Canadian kid in the Middle East. Anyone who was even remotely similar to me was someone who was on the completely opposite side of the rails. Complete opposite side. I could speak English in a place where no one could speak any language aside from the dialect that everyone spoke. It's very difficult. It wasn't for mentors, I'd be lost, completely lost. My life would have been a completely different story altogether. But mentors, we need to invest in mentorship. We need to take care of our financial status as Muslims. There's a lot of wealth in the Muslim community. There's a ridiculous amount of money in our community. We're just not managing it well. There's a lack of proper management. There's a lack of collaboration to see how can we use this wealth in a way that serves our community. It serves people, to help people get married, help them start businesses, help them buy houses, help Muslim institutions run programming that will serve people. I'm not a money person at all. The only reason that I am not dead broke is because my wife manages our bank account. Otherwise, I would be walking in here in a paper bag every time I came in. I don't know how to manage money. This is not my domain at all. I have no reason to speak of this. But a community that doesn't have some form of financial centralization in it, 30,000 people, seriously, we don't have nothing? Continuous fundraisers every single quarter, and we have to go to the fancy places and why? This is here. It's every week. What's the plan? What's the plan? Here's what we need. Put the money. Let's move on. We have to have something. We definitely can do this better. We definitely can do this better. Figure it out so we can do this better. I can't figure this piece out. I can help with the educational mentorship. I cannot do this thing. You have to figure out how to get money moving. It's pathetic. The budgets of masajid comparison to other places of worship. All right? Other places of worship for different faiths, the budget difference is wallahi, depressing. It's depressing. I thought when I was first told the number that the person was mistaking by a zero. He had added a zero. No, it was impossible. It's impossible. I had to sit and think about $500 and 1,000 and 15 and 12,000, and people are talking in the hundreds of millions. Khair, inshallah. Why? Are we all poor? No, there's wealth. There's just lack of management. And the last piece that I think we should focus on is advocacy. And what I mean by advocacy is advocacy when it comes to our status in this country, the laws and the legal aspect of our existence. Laws have to reflect the will of the people. Are we not people? Why are laws not reflecting any of our will? Why do laws not seem to care about us at all? Why are laws actually still coming out that ban hijabs in certain parts of the country? How is that possible? There's lack of advocacy. The younger generation who was different than mine. I was born to walk, I was raised to walk by, just walk by the wall, keep your head down, just get a quiet job and stay quiet. Don't cause any fuss, just be quiet. And that's my mentality. It's very hard for me to think outside of that. It really is. I'm limited. I'm very limited by that. But the next generation isn't. You were born here, you lived most of your life here, you belong here. You need to make sure that that continues to be the case. You have to make sure everyone understands that you belong here. This is just as much your country as everyone else's. And the laws of the country and the policies, internal and external policies, have to reflect your will. They have to. It's impossible that there's 1 million Muslims in Canada, yet the country will behave in ways that shows no respect for Muslims anywhere. It makes no sense. Smaller groups are able to ensure that the government will treat their minorities properly, but then we don't care. We have to focus on that. These are the five categories I think we should work on. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I could be wrong, but this is what I think. I think we have to invest in education. We have to invest in outreach. We have to invest in mentorship. These are different things, very different things. Not the same. Education, you need people of knowledge. Mentorship, you just need people. Just people who are decent, some degree of decency, and are willing to commit some time. We have to take care of our financial status, and we have to show better efforts in advocacy, more organized efforts in advocacy. This is what I think we can do. The reason that I ended with this, because the reason I came up with these, by the way, was because I thought to myself, what would the Prophet ﷺ tell us to do? We listened to all these stories about him. What would he have told us to do? Because I actually thought, I don't know. He's not here, but if someone was able to give him a call and he answered, Ya Rasulullah, what do we do, Ya Rasulullah? Sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What do we do, Ya Rasulullah? What do we do? This is what I think he would have told us to do. I think he would tell us, focus on these areas. Invest in people again. Invest in your unity. Invest in your communities again. Never forget that the ummah is the bigger goal. The ummah of Muhammad alayhi salam, all across the planet, that's your bigger goal. That's what you're trying to do. That's why you're building something strong, so that you can advocate for them, so that you can serve them, so they can do something of meaning. Make sure Ramadan is not the end of your story. Make sure Ramadan is the beginning of your story. Make sure you use Ramadan to move forward, to do something that you didn't do before, to be someone that you weren't before, to dream big, and to have great hopes, and to try to actually live beyond yourself and do something that you can be proud of at the end of your life. It's something you can take to God and argue your way through Yawm al-Qiyamah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be very picky if He wants to. He can go down to every moment and every dollar, but He won't if you just bring something big. You see, Musa alayhi salam once got upset. He was carrying the suhuf, and he got so upset that he was carrying with him the sacred suhuf that he was given, the alwah from Allah. He threw them down, and he took his brother by his beard, and he was yelling at him. There's nowhere in the Quran that Allah said anything to him. Never chastised him, never said that was wrong, nothing. It's like it wasn't even wrong, even though it was wrong, but he didn't talk about it, because Musa stood in front of Fir'aun. See, Musa stood in front of Fir'aun with all the fear, all of Fir'aun's tyranny and oppression. He stood there, and he told him, Ya Rab, I'm scared. A couple of times in the Quran he says, I'm scared. Don't be scared. But I'm scared, I know. Don't be scared. They'll kill me. Stand anyways. So he did. And because he was able to do that, and he saved Bani Israel, whatever mistakes he makes are going to be lost in the ocean of hasanat that he has. Not to criticize or anything, but Yunus alayhi salam, a great prophet of God, and no one can ever say they're better than Yusuf, and that's what the Prophet alayhi salam taught us. But he made one small mistake. He got upset that his people wouldn't listen to him, so he walked out without permission. He thought he wouldn't be punished for it, and he had to spend the better part of the year inside the belly of a whale. Because Yunus didn't stand in front of Fir'aun. He was a prophet and messenger who did great deeds. He's higher status than all of us. He didn't have that one big thing that Musa alayhi salam did. The Prophet alayhi salam would say, Uthman, he said, I need money for Jaysh al-Usra. So people had nothing. They would come with a date, 2 dates, 3 dates, a piece of clothing. They had nothing. And Uthman saw this. He said, I'll take care of it. An army, a full army, said, I'll take care of it. Before that, the Prophet ﷺ needed water. People were thirsty in Medina, and they were paying for their water. Uthman said, I'll buy the well. I'll buy the well. He bought the well. The Prophet ﷺ would go like this. ما ضر عثمان ما فعل بعد اليوم. What can Uthman ever do that will ever harm him again? Whatever mistakes Uthman will make in his life will be forgiven because of what he did. Because if he chose the right moment, he did something big. Figure that out within these categories. And I hope the series of the Prophet ﷺ's attributes were helpful to you. I hope that your experience with us throughout Ramadan was also beneficial. Any good things that you have heard here or experienced here are exclusively from Allah al-Wahid al-Ahad Jalla Jalalullah, and any mistakes and shortcomings are from us, and inshaAllah ta'ala you'll continue to try and improve and become better. Keep us in your dua. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our good deeds and grant us freedom from the punishment of the fire. We will run inshaAllah after Salat al-Isha tonight a short 8 rak'ah tarawih, and we'll have a witr and a small dua. And we'll on our WhatsApp groups, we'll let you know the moment we know, inshallah, when Eid is, and hopefully, inshallah, it's Friday. تقبل الله طاعاتكم كل عام وأنتم بخير جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.